Hello, my name is Rumbrun, and this is the 33rd episode of my Survival Minecraft Let's Play series. Welcome. So, you can see an ugly monstrosity behind me, and that is my automatic storage system that can only do wood items that are stackable to 64 for now. Later, I'll take care of other stuff, but not yet, because I don't want to. And there's something that I don't like about it, which is if I want to find the cherry logs, then those are in this chest. Although there's nothing in here. You have to look up into, nope, this hopper and say, oh, there's cherry logs in here. And so that means that this chest is dedicated to cherry logs. But like, you can access the cherry logs from the chest, which is like how it should work, is you should be able to grab them from the chest. And also, there's kind of a more practical reason for me wanting to fill this up, which is between episodes, I've been kind of trying to design a way for like this to be a more usable storage system, but that's taken some time, which is why I'm not doing it yet. And also, I think that it will work a lot better if there's like actually items to work with. So, that's what I'm gonna have to do. So, but just watching me collect a bunch of materials is gonna be kind of boring. So, I'm going to tell you a story. And I want to do a little bit of explanation about the story, which is that it's going to be taking place in the same world as a story I've already done. I'll put a link to the video where I told that story in the description, but it becomes before that story in the timeline of events of that universe thing. I don't know. So that's what that's gonna be. But enjoy this story. Don't go, Arjun said, pulling at Amira's sleeve. Amira turned around and gave her brother a hug. At 11, he was just 2 years younger than her, and he was her best friend. I'll come back, she promised him. It's not like I'm going to a different country. I'm just going to a different school. But I don't want you to go, he protested. Dragon riding is dangerous. Everyone knows it. They are so big. And they can breathe fire. Why would you want to be near one of those creatures, let alone ride one of them? Amira knew that it would be pointless to try to explain why she wanted to go. She had tried before, and Arjun just didn't understand. But every time she thought of flying into battle, sword in hand, riding a magnificent beast, her heart soared. Ever since that day when bandits had raided the town 9 years ago, and dragon riders had come to the rescue, she had known that she wanted to someday be that cool. And now she could apply to become one of them. In response to Arjun's question, Amira shrugged. I just want to, she said. It seems cool. Arjun's face fell, and Amira realized that he'd been hoping that she would change her mind at the last moment, although she'd been telling him that she wanted this for years. He hugged her and said, "Be safe," then fled back into the house. He hugged her and said, "Be safe," then fled back into the house. Amira smiled, then shut the door and breathed in deeply. It smelled like freedom. It smelled like a new beginning. She grinned again, then started walking in the direction of the dragon riding school. 3 miles later, she wasn't feeling as excited. Of course, she'd known that the dragon riding school was around 3 miles away, but she didn't know how long 3 miles was. Her legs hurt, she was breathing hard, and even though the day was cool, she was sweating. There was a tree up ahead which cast some shade on the path. Amira considered stopping there for a short rest, but decided against it. She had never been to the dragon riding school, so she didn't know exactly where it was, but it had to be close. Of course, that was what she had thought the last 10 times, but this time she would be right. Amira walked past the tree, then crested a small hill just beyond it. And there it was! Nestled in a small valley was a large castle, made entirely out of stone. There were tall towers and soaring archways and courtyards with elaborate fountains, and it was so big. Amira immediately fell in love with it. It looked both incredibly strong and incredibly beautiful. Grinning, her legs suddenly feeling less tired, she ran towards the gate to the castle. Around an hour later, she was sitting in a room with a bunch of other people that were around her age. Everyone else seemed just as nervous as she was, since they were all silent. When she had reached the gate of the castle, Amira had just been told to wait in this room. She had never been told what she was waiting for. Suddenly, the door swung open. 2 women and 1 man walked through the door, and Amira's breath caught. All 3 of them were dressed in armor, beautifully made, but looked to be very light and comfortable. One of the women had a bow and a quiver of arrows slung across her back, and the other 2 had swords hanging by their waists. Each of them had a bracelet of scales around their left wrist, and they all walked with an air of confidence in their step that Amira envied. The woman with the sword stepped forward from the other 2 and surveyed the crowd before her. "Do you want to become dragon riders?" she asked. A few of them nodded, but most, like Amira, were too intimidated to move. The woman's mouth tightened with annoyance. Then she made some sort of hand signal. The wall behind her swung away, and behind it, there were dragons. Arjun was right. Dragons were big. She had seen dragons before, of course, but never this close. They were scary, but kind of beautiful too. One of the boys that was sitting near Amira suddenly jumped up and ran towards the dragons. He dodged right past the 3 adults and ran up to the largest dragon there, a big gray one. He touched the dragon's scales, then smiled. The dragon looked down at him, then wrapped its tail around the boy's waist. Amira looked towards the 3 adult dragon riders, expecting them to scold the boy for being so rash and moving before instructions were given. But instead, they just watched, silently. Everyone looked around nervously. No one was quite sure what to do. Then one of the girls stood up, shaking. She walked over to a green dragon. Before she could reach her hand out to touch the dragon like the boy had done, the dragon swung one of its massive claws and slammed it into her, and the girl went flying. She crashed into a wall with a yelp, then crumpled to the floor. The green dragon looked at her and snorted out some smoke. This time, the woman with the sword did say something. "That is the risk you take when trying to become a dragon rider. If any of you wish to leave, you may do so now." She gestured to the door that they had used to enter the room. Some of them, including the girl who had just been hit by the dragon, stood up and left, pale and shaking. Amira was one of the ones that stayed, although she was terrified. Arjun was right, she thought shakily. No one in their right mind would ever get close to one of these beasts. After a moment or 2 of waiting, the man said, "Well?" He was looking straight at her. Amira glanced around. 3 other girls and 2 boys were still with her, but the man was looking at her for some reason. She stood up and walked towards the dragons, braced for an impact from a dragon claw. But none came. Amira took a moment to survey the dragons, and a bright orange dragon caught her eye. She started to walk towards that dragon, but then stopped. Something felt off. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something wasn't right. Amira looked around again, and she saw a small, light purple dragon that was in the back, crouching down as if trying to make itself look smaller. There was a hint of nervousness in the dragon's eyes, but there was also a spark of determination. And maybe the dragon was smaller than the others, but it seemed to have more life, more personality. And Amira thought she saw a little of herself in those eyes. She walked towards the purple dragon. The dragon did not strike at her, but instead watched her curiously. When she reached the dragon, Amira swallowed nervously. Even though this dragon was smaller than the others, it was still much bigger than she was. Just like she had seen the first boy do, she reached out her hand to touch the dragon's scales. Instantly, a voice entered her mind. Hello, my name is Amethyst. You and I are going to have a lot of fun together. Okay, so when I started this episode, I think I meant to do like all of the wood, but that's a lot. So instead, I just did all of the some oak wood stuff just coming in. So I hope you like the story that I told while I gathered all of that stuff, because that took forever. And I will just say thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I will catch you next time.